This is the Besotted Pride of West London podcast, and we're coming to you a few days after Brentford got a win. Sorry, no, I got it wrong, actually. We drew, didn't we? God, it felt like a win. The whole weekend, I'll be sitting there beaming, smiling on my face, talking to all my Arsenal chums who have been moaning away all weekend because they thought that Brentford beat them at the weekend, because as far as they're concerned, we got a win and they got a loss. And it was all down to 3 letters, VAR, apparently. Nothing to do with the way that we played as a team and actually created all sorts of opportunities. But we will talk about that a little bit later. My name is Billy Grant. I'm sitting here in the virtual joint with my chums. Laney, how are you?
I'm good, mate. I'm really good. Yeah, we had a really good Saturday. Plenty to talk about. We would have probably moved on and talked about the, just the game and the unbeaten run going on. But the whole footballing world seems to be obsessed, as you say, by VAR and that decision. So, we ought to put our tuppence worth into that as well.
We're going to talk about that a little bit later, lady, because obviously that's a big part of the game on Saturday. Something which affected us during the game. But I shouldn't be laughing, but yes, I should be laughing, actually. It affected the Arsenal fans even more after the game and for the whole weekend. And it looks like it's going to ruin their week, and it could even ruin their season, the way things are going at the moment now. But as they say, swings and roundabouts. We got the Allard in the house. How are you doing, the Allard?
I'm very good, yeah. It was a cracking day Saturday, wasn't it? It was the proof that going 1-0 down and then getting the equaliser to make it 1-1 is it's not as good as a win, but it's better than drawing 0-0. Do you know what I mean? It's that you get that buzz, don't you, off the equalising goal, and big proof for that on Saturday. I just thought we were brilliant on Saturday. Take away everything else, go and look at the XG. We were brilliant on Saturday.
Yeah. We were indeed, and we'll talk about that later. The XG chart, which wasn't actually updated on Infogol till about a couple of hours ago. Yeah. I mean, the Arsenal fans again, clutching at straws for everything. They were desperately going to be. I mean, this is, we did it in the post-match podcast. Even the guy that I spoke to, the Arsenal fan in there, he was schooling me on the XG. He goes, but our goal isn't on here. This can't be right. We are better than that, honest. And I was just
to be fair, he was right. Their goal wasn't on there.
It wasn't, but that's not the point, though. Allard.
It was quite funny listening to that podcast. I'm thinking, but it's only gone up to half time still. I don't know why, but it had.
It is, but like I said, and this is this whole thing. What you're talking about, about the goal that was scored. We scored the equaliser, and it makes it feel better. I mean, for me, I've been smiling all weekend, and like I said to you, I feel like we actually won. I mean, I even sort of said the other day, I said, and I've had a few people, even a few Arsenal fans said to me, you won. I mean, me and Laney did AFTV, which you may have seen or may not. So just go to AFTV, you see we did AFTV after the match. I mean, I did it before the match as well, but we braved it and did it after the match as well, which was quite interesting. And Robbie told us to come down. He said, and he'll get us on. So we had to go there and we had to stand around while one Arsenal fan ranted on for about 20 minutes, saying the same thing again and again for about 20 minutes. And as we stood there, an Arsenal fan started chatting to me, and he started saying, yeah, man, you guys did all right, man. You got the 3 points, you must be really happy. And I was thinking, in his head, he's thinking we've won. So, that is kind of like, this is where we've sort of kind of come from. And I suppose looking at that game and how we, and we'll talk about later how we got the chances in the first half, how we equalised. And to me, like I said to you, there's different feelings in these different matches. And, this Arsenal game, do you think the feeling that we have about it now, where we're jumping, is it due to the fact because Arsenal are top of the league? Is it because of the way that we played? Is it the fact that because we came from behind and we got a VAR decision, so it means that we kind of got away with something? Why do you think it's that we feel so euphoric about it, and it actually really, really feels like a solid victory?
I just think it was the performance and the day that we've been robbed of the last couple of visits there. We spoke last week about what we expected and what we hoped for from the visit to the Emirates, and it was like we put in a performance. And not only did we put a performance in, we actually came away thinking that we were unlucky. At that time, screw the VAR controversy, forget all that. We did enough in the first half to be at least one goal up, and of course you're gonna come under the cosh there. You know, Arsenal are an exceptional team, but we snubbed them out. We really did limit them to very few chances, like pop shots from outside the area, tiny little half chances. You know, there was some brilliant defending. The clips of Pinnock getting his literally putting his body on the line. It was a great performance. And okay, we didn't win, but we proved that again. Not only did we keep the unbeaten run going, but we went toe to toe, and we went to the backyard of probably the team that's going to win the title this year, and we gave them more than a match, So I was just really proud, really happy. So yeah, I mean, it does feel like a victory, but I think we deserved the whole 3 points, and I'm just we'll speak about VAR in a minute, but there's so much more to our performance than a dodgy VAR that we got the we got the sort of like the rub of the green on. I think that's a massive disrespect, but we are used to being massively disrespected, and it's just another example of that.
Yeah, the Allard. I mean, your day. Tell us about your day, because the thing about it is that if your day starts off well, and then in the middle it goes well, and then it ends off well, and this sounds like what's he talking about, Bill? But it ends up just being a brilliant day. So I mean, obviously beforehand you had a few drinks. Afterwards you must have had a few drinks. I mean, your day was it one of the sort of more complete away days of the season for you?
And this is the thing, is that I'd convinced myself Arsenal away wasn't a good day out. But now it's become really clear that was just because we haven't. I mean, we haven't turned up. Is that the right phrase? I don't really like using that. But for the last couple of times, the 2 times we played there, twice, isn't it? We haven't really performed, right? But I did more or less the same thing. Went to the brewery, had a few beers, went to the game. But this time, because we were so good, it just made the day out like perfect. And now I'm thinking, Arsenal's one of the best away days. There's loads of good places to go for a beer. And I guess it's the performance that makes that.
I mean, and I hear that. I mean, I wouldn't go quite as far as saying it's one of the best away days. I'm
just saying that's what it feels like today. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, exactly. I hear what you're saying. Me and Laney, we I know I didn't catch up with you guys before the game because I went to go and see the Che, as the local Arsenal fans call it, the Che Guevara pub beforehand, because it's very close to the ground. It literally is spitting distance to the ground. I mean, having a pub so close to the ground, it's actually their equivalent of the Griffin, actually, which is all good. You've got everyone standing outside, you've got people inside. He's got minimal furniture. He only takes cash. I wonder why that is then, as well. And he's a right character, with his beret and his all his kind of Cuban music and the Cuban photographs all around the place. So yeah, that was good to go to before the match as well. Then afterwards, like I said to you, I managed to dispatch my daughter Bella off home with her mates. She's old enough to do that now, which enabled me to go off drinking with the Laney. So we made it down to the brewery. I think we missed you. We probably missed you by 2 minutes actually down at the old brewery. So we sort of hit the southern side of Highbury afterwards, and ended up having a bit of a Thai meal, Irish pub, Irish music thingy, didn't we, Laney?
Yeah, it was good. I had a cracking day. Yeah, the Hammerson Brewery. I'm addicted to the City of Cake. I wish I had a pint of it now because it set my day up. And and I sat next to Adam and his little crew, Adam Checkley. He bought me a pint at half time. I rarely have a drink during the game, and he went, Laney, can I get you a beer? And I went, yeah, I don't mind if I do. And he bought me a Camden Hells at half time. I thought, it was lovely to share the day with him and his family, and me and Bill kept high-fiving and punching each other every 5 minutes, going like, we've got a little routine now where we don't mention the time. We just push each other, and we both know what each other means, and we kind of share each other's nerves without saying anything. So yeah, we were counting down the clock after we scored, because there was 8 minutes of injury time played, and it just seemed to go on and on and on. And I know that Ivan Toney spent most of that sitting down, but it was quite nervy, because at that stage you're desperate to not see them go up the other end and hear another massive roar. But yeah, the day was great, and the Thai food was wicked, wasn't it?
Thai food, I'll tell you something, the Hemmingford Arms, which I used to live just down the road from there. I used to live in Stoke Newington for years and years and years and years. I used to make my way to Brentford from Stoke Newington, which wasn't the easiest of trips, it has to be said. But I used to drive past the Hemmingford all the time, and I always wanted to go in there. And for the amount of years I lived down that way, I never actually went to that boozer. So for me, it was actually kind of like putting the stamp down, putting the flag down, going inside the pub with loads of leaves on the outside. And it is a right little cavernous little place with all sorts of characters inside there. And as you probably heard on our post-match podcast, Pride of West London, you could definitely catch that one. It's definitely worth checking out after the Arsenal game. We caught a few Arsenal fans in there after the match as well, to be fair, who gave their hat and tipped their hat to us in a rather large way. But yeah, that was a really, really good evening. So anyway, but we're going to talk about the Arsenal match in a minute. We just want to mention a couple of things as well. Sergi Canos scored his first goal for Olympiacos. I think it was last night. Was it last night or the night before?
Yeah, it was last night.
Yeah, it was last night. They won by loads, 6-1 or something ridiculous. The Nottingham Forest owner, who owns Olympiacos, so he owns Sergi Canos, and he made a dedication to his mum as well. So there was a double dedication going on over the weekend. Obviously, one from Ivan Toney after he scored, and the one from Sergi Canos as well. So Sergi must be feeling rather cool, because as you know, the Greek fans are quite potty for it over there. So he would be a bit of a favourite over there very, very early on.
It's been a really emotional few weeks for Sergi, and he's obviously, said goodbye to Brentford. He issued that statement. I know he's only there on loan, but it certainly seems
he's only there for this loan for the season.
He certainly seems like he's in his mind at least he's not going to come back. And then to lose his mum, I was really surprised that he played. And he got his goal, and he had his T-shirt on, says "I love you, Mama," which he got booked for, which I thought was typical Sergi. He's always got a booking in him, but to get booked for paying your regards to your own mum, I thought it's a bit petty, but those is the rules, I guess.
Yeah. And then also another bit of news as well, and this is quite interesting as well. A bit of sad news for an ex-Brentford player, Alfie Mawson, who came out of our youth academy, and he ended up going on to pastures new and actually accelerated himself faster than the bees did. In effect, he was rejected by Brentford because we didn't think he was good enough, or that let's just say the Mark Warburton team didn't think that he was good enough for Brentford. So he ended up going to Wycombe Wanderers, then he ended up at Barnsley, then he ended up going to Swansea, playing in the Premier League while we were still sort of sauntering around in Division 1 and then in the Championship as well. And then he went on to the F Word as well, which is Fulham. And then Bournemouth as well, and and Alfie Mawson, he was at Bournemouth, I can't remember. Anyway, he's done the rounds. That's right. He's done the rounds, and we had one of our crew as well, Jimmy, met him at a boxing match actually one time, and he actually told him the story of why he left Brentford and how he felt a little bit bitter about the Brentford thing, because he just said that they didn't rate him at all. The Warburton gang didn't rate him. We had Harley Dean and about another 5 centre backs at the time, and they didn't think there was any way he was going to get anywhere near the first team. So he had no other way but to go out on loan. And to be quite honest with you, it was probably the best thing that ever happened to him. And I think also that kind of situation changed a lot of the ways that we did things, because we thought, hold on a second, Alfie Mawson was ours and he's gone elsewhere. So eventually B team came and all sorts of stuff started happening, and there was a change in the academy. But I think that was one of the instigators of why Brentford are as they are now. But Alfie Mawson, he's had to resign to retire from an injury, and he's very young as well, because I believe he's probably 27,
29 years,
29 years old. So he's retiring. So let's see what he's going to do. But look, good luck to Alfie Mawson, because good luck to him. He wasn't with us he was with our academy for a while. He didn't, and like I said to you, listen, we wish all players, Brentford players, well, except for one or two that's left us, well, in the future anyway. But anyway, listen, we're going to go.
Yeah, local lad, wasn't he?
He was.
Ealing? Does his dad? Didn't his dad run the fruit and veg stall on Ealing Market or something like that? Or Greenford, was it? Or something like that?
Possibly. Possibly. Everyone that knows that, anyone that knows anything about the Mawson, just write in and let us know. But anyway, listen, tell you something. We're sitting here. We're all like post Arsenal having our beers, just like what we were doing on Saturday afternoon. Like, we're just trying to let the experience run on. We're going to go away and top ourselves up. Then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about 3 specific letters: VAR. So Arsenal won, Brentford won on Saturday, and great day, great game, great resilience from the Bees, great attacking flair from the Bees, a bit of luck from the Bees, something that we don't necessarily always have. We pretty much had it all on Saturday. The only thing that we didn't have is to get that last minute winner, which would have really topped it off on Saturday, and it really would have probably topped off a lot of Arsenal fans if that had happened. But what an absolutely fantastic performance by Brentford on Saturday, and what a result, the Allard.
Yeah, just it was not dissimilar to the way we've approached most of the games against the big teams this season, in that we were happy to give the ball up. And we were happy to sort of play like a deep block, I think is the modern phrase for defending deeply. But when we did have an opportunity, we went for it, and it turned out we were the ones creating the chances, especially in the first half. I think we went in at half time very disappointed to honestly only be 0-0. I think we could have easily been 1-0 up, maybe even being greedy 2-0 up.
Well,
second half a little bit more even.
On BBC Radio 5 in the evening on their podcast as well, they actually said that we should have been 3 up at half time, which I thought that was quite generous. But I mean, I'm not going to argue with those pundits the pundits who were there at the game. So let's call it a hat trick. So saying that, Lord, if we should have been 3 up at half time, which you could say arguably we should have been, then is it actually an opportunity lost? Because we're going to talk about this VAR in a minute, but the reality is, and this is my whole argument about this whole VAR stuff that they are focusing on, the reality is that they got away with one in the first half. 100%. They got away with one. And okay, so we got away with one in the second half. So they got away with 3 in the first half. So if they got away with 3 and we got away with 1, surely that makes us the winner.
Yeah, I mean, the XG decides the winner, doesn't it? And we want
only when we win it, though.
Yeah. And I think even if you take our goal out, which, with the VAR arguments, I still think we win on XG from what I vaguely remember. At worst case, it was 1-1. I mean, our goal was different to VAR, the Mbumo goal, because the referee clearly blowed the whistle. And from the moment the whistle is blown, then I guess all players are reacting differently. So that is kind of it's a very different argument to the argument about VAR. There's an argument for the Mbumo goal that the ref could have thought, well, I'll let that carry on and then it can go to VAR, or I let it carry on and then I'll blow. Maybe should have blown after the sort of the play, to use an Americanism, concluded, which would have been the Mbumo shot. Then he can blow for a free kick. Then it can go to VAR to decide. But that didn't happen.
Yeah. I mean, and just coming back to the XG for the game, 1.37 to Arsenal and 1.86. I mean, we created, quite a lot of very good chances. Big yellow bubbles, because we weren't playing in yellow, we were actually playing in blue, but big yellow bubbles in the area, including the Ivan Toney goal as well. But there are other chances in there as well, which we did create as well, which is, Rico Henry in 5 minutes. That's 50%. 1 in 2 normally go in the back of the net, that one there, So,
and that was a weird one, wasn't it? I mean, I don't know what you thought, but it seemed like sort of, it seemed like Rico didn't quite follow in, did he? I don't know what you thought, Laney.
It seemed like he got in the way of Brian Mbumo that was coming in behind him. Whether he had to take the chance, but his finishing is pretty poor, isn't it, Rico's? Let's be honest with you. It didn't surprise me he didn't go in, but he seemed to get in the way, if I'm honest. And then obviously the other massive chance was Ivan Toney, where he hit the bar. Again on another day, he finds the net there,
and the probability of that one was 35%. So roughly about 1 in 3 of those normally hit the back of the net.
And it was brilliant play as well. I mean, he laid it, didn't he, to Mbumo? Then Mbumo, cuts back in or whatever, and then he picks Tony out with that cross. Just pulls it back rather than hitting the sort of the aimless ball across. He just picks Tony out and we score them goals a lot, actually. They're kind of, in some respects, our bread and butter, those pullback goals.
Yeah, and I mean, another that we had, we had Ethan Pinnock, who had a sort of 1 in 10er. We had Ben Mee as well, who had a 1 in 10er as well. We had Christian Norgard, a 90+5 as well, who had a sort of kind of 1 in 10er as well, as in 1 out of 10 normally go in the back of the net. So,
the Ben Mee one was it was a really hard header, wasn't it? Goalward. Did it hit Pinnock or somebody, or hit one of their players or something like that?
Yeah. I'm not sure about that one, but like I said to you, really good opportunities. And I know you were talking about the Arsenal, the goal that Arsenal are saying should not have been allowed. Okay, so if you want to take that off, okay, all right, so you take that off, and you're talking about that was a sort of a 56, which is just over 1 in 2 chance. So you take 56% off, from our XG, so that brings it down to it's about 1.3. No, but it brings it down to 1.32. So Arsenal 1.37 to us 1.3. We're roughly the same. So it's that's what happens if you take away our goal as well. So I think my thing is that Arsenal fans, instead of moaning about what happened with the VAR, should it or should not have been, surely they should be more concerned about how open they've been. The fact that we were able to we only had 9 shots, if I remember rightly. They had like 22. Okay. And they're all going, oh, yeah, we had much more possession. We had much more shots. Yeah. But the fact is that all your shots are literally tiny little dots around the edge of the area. You didn't create anything except for the Trossard chance. Okay. But other than that, you created so many tiny little dots that you managed to accumulate yourselves 1.37 with the Trossard chance. And the Trossard chance, okay, that was a big chance. That was like, that was 1 in 2 or something like that, so 55%. But other than that, all the rest of them are tiny, 5%ers, 6%ers, something like that. And the fact that we were able to create more with the 7 chances or 8 chances that we had, surely that should be something they should be more worried about than the kind of the fact that the referee did or didn't give VAR, because these chances are going to happen all the time. You're going to get things that go with you and go against you. But as a team, they should be looking at the fact that, we managed to break them down and create brilliant chances almost every time we went forward.
I just love the fact that all this noise is going on about something that was nothing to do with us. We just got on and played our game. We're not discussing a goal that is contested about. Didn't he dive? Have we tried to cheat? Have we tried to do something that's against the sort of like the gentlemanly conduct of a match? Is it unsporting? We've just put the ball in the back of the net. The mistake has been made by VAR people there. Is it a mistake? Is he offside? Blah blah blah. Whatever. We'll just roll with it. We'll roll with the decision. We've gone to Arsenal and created really high quality chances. We've done that in every game we play, no matter who we play. We go there and we play our game. We impose our patterns of play, and we create trouble. We create real trouble. And Ivan Toney, man of the match by a country mile. There, he is bossing some multi-million pound defenders, Champions League defenders. He's proving that he is a Champions League player. I've got, my authors, like Man United guy rang me today. Oh, Ivan Toney, Man United have got to go in for him in the summer. What's happening with this, the betting situation? It's like, well, don't know yet, whatever. We need to be in for him. We need him in our team. His reputation is growing by the week. Was it 14 goals now this season? He's more than a one-season wonder. He is, and Brentford are, giving it to the big boys. And it is. They can gripe on as much as they want, but it's whatever. Just it's not really our problem, and that's a really good position to be in.
Yeah, and talking about player of the match as well, Ivan Toney was voted the Besotted Global Player of the Match. Thanks to David again, the Tasmanian bee out there in Tasmania, who compiles us every single week, actually. So it's Ivan Toney at number 1, Roslev at number 2, and Ethan Pinnock as number 3. And to be quite honest with you, all the players played really well. But, again, you could see, talking about other players, Roslev has just stepped up next level. He really has stepped up next level. And if you think about him, you see how cool and composed he looks. playing against Arsenal and confident he looks playing against Arsenal. And you saw this kid is somebody who's come out of our B team. You know what I'm saying? You know, he's playing against £100 million players and he literally has come out of them. It cost us nothing, you know? So just things like that, you know, it makes you feel really, really proud. And obviously Ethan Pinnock, he is just, you know, I mean, who is it? There's a few people out there who are trying to sort of trying to get him into the England team, you know, not probably knowing that he actually plays for Jamaica, and it's going to be quite difficult to get him in the England team because he already plays for another country. But he is a really quality player, and this is the one thing that's going to, and it's interesting to just ask you that about this, the Allard, you know, Arsenal, you know, pinging the ball around and passing the ball around as they do, you know, having their 2,000 passes or whatever like that, getting the ball out and then banging the ball into the middle, you know, that is just kind of fodder for Pinnock, who was just cleaning up all day long, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, it's what Man City did. You think they might have learnt from that. And to be fair, the goal they scored wasn't doing that, was it? It was like they finally got an overlap on the far post and scored their goal. And you know, between probably Worslev and Ira maybe picking up wrong players, we didn't pick up Trossard. But yeah, exactly. If teams want to do that, if they just want to lump the ball in the middle, or just hit, you know, crosses through the middle, then between, especially Ben Mee as well, we'll take that all day long, and we're defending incredibly well at the moment, and I don't think we're giving teams opportunities to sort of tear us or cut us apart.
Arteta, I'm going to ask you a question. I mean, the thing is that he came under a bit of stick from Arsenal fans last season. Again, it's something that, you know, I talked to them about on AFTV, and I said to him, don't you think that, you know, it's actually on the Besotted podcast, you know, you go in too early on your managers, you know what I'm saying? You just don't give him enough opportunities. So they gave him grief last season. Now he's obviously coming through. But do you think the position that he takes sometimes is that of a sort of kind of slightly bitter person, you know, if things don't go his way? Or do you think that's the stance he needs to take to assert his authority? So say, for example, with the goal that didn't happen, apparently he said something like, you know, I'm not going to be happy until they give us that goal back because that's my goal. You know, that was my win. You know, I'm not going to be happy until they give us the win. You know, it wasn't human error. You know, it was error. Do you think that attitude is a bit kind of unnecessary?
He's going for the old siege mentality, isn't he? He's positioning himself where, in the end, every fan of every other club hates him, but Arsenal fans love him. And I just don't think he needs to be as salty as he is. And I just think he's performative. And he's obviously animated and he wears his heart on his sleeve, but I think he's just playing up for the cameras and I think he's acting a lot of the time as well. But it's, you know, obviously he's disappointed, but I just don't think there's quite enough honesty overall about the performance. Yeah, there's that one chance, but overall, I think he ought to be quite relieved that he got a point out of that. I don't know about you, Matt.
I mean, I read it a little bit differently. I actually think he's feeling the pressure actually of the title race. I think that the first sort of senses after we came back from the World Cup break, and I'm desperately trying to think of the game, but he lost it massively on the touchline in, I think, was it the first half of the game, and I think he got booked or something, and maybe I'm making that up, but in my head he did, and I don't think I've seen him sort of project a calm persona in recent weeks, and this is their first blip of the season. They've only taken 1 point out of 6, I guess, having lost to Everton. So I think it's sort of a big time actually for him to stay calm and get this back on track. I think he's under pressure, and I think he's really showing the pressure at the moment. And it's probably a little bit of a lack of experience of being in that position as a manager. He hasn't been in this position before, and you can also say that probably about quite a lot of the team. You know, they haven't got that many Premier League winners in that team, have they? I mean, you know, one or two here and there. So, and none of them playing for Arsenal. So I just think, yeah, there's a little bit of pressure showing, and I think that's what comes out in a lot of these interviews.
Okay, so listen, I mean, we've been talking about this game quite a lot ourselves. Let's go back to Saturday, to the terraces, to the stands. Let's have a little listen to what the fans had to say, both Brentford and Arsenal fans in the stands and also in the pubs after the game. And don't forget, no one knew about the VAR issues at this time.
We had the better chances, hit the woodwork. We should have done better, maybe. But I think we kept them quiet pretty much all game, apart from their goal, right? Good goal. We were getting tired legs by that stage. But we got back into it, and we scored a goal. I was slightly nervous when they were getting to VAR, man. But
you love VAR,
yeah, I love VAR. I love VAR now.
I thought we had the better of the first half, really. Certainly the better chances, yeah, absolutely. Oh, absolutely unbelievable. Thank God for VAR. I used to think it was rubbish, because 99% they chalk it off for a toenail. But today, we got the decision, and it's absolutely fantastic. Onwards and upwards we go.
Amazing result, Billy. Absolutely superb today. The boys were brilliant at every point. Gave absolutely everything. Scored a goal. Bit League One, but it was a great goal. But we had loads and loads of blue blobs everywhere on the XG, and they had tiny red ones. That's all we need. But no, the lads defended so well, so brave, and then on the counter-attack, hit them hard. So brilliant result. Absolutely phenomenal result.
Let's remember, Arsenal are a top side. And we matched them again there. We ran at them, we fought for everything, a bit scrappy at times, but we're going into games at Arsenal, Man City these days thinking we can get something. It's crazy. 10 unbeaten in the Premier League. But look at the chances we had. Another day, Tony put two of them in. Brian might have scored. Clear-cut chances. We were much stronger. And defensively, whoever we put out, whether it's Hickey, Zanka, Pontus, no one's letting us down. Everyone is so solid and so organised. It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Coming to Arsenal, mate, away, we are a Premiership team and we stood up to them, mate, top of the league. Excellent.
Because you know what? That's just guts coming back, and actually we were all over them. We should have won that game at least 3-1. We should have won it. But it shows that we can mix it with the best easily. You beast!
Oh, do you know what? I've come here expecting, I thought we'd put up a performance, but we'd lose. But we were superb. I thought the first half, I don't think they knew how to cope with us. We blocked them out. We defended so well. And we could have had a couple of goals in the first half. Tony, who made the move, who hit the bar, he should have scored. Henry had a good chance to score. We were the better team first half by far. Their goal, Trossard, obviously is a threat. We knew when he come on he's a threat. And he took his goal well. But we never give up, did we? No, I don't think Arsenal came here, the crowd came here expecting just to win, and we'd roll over. They'd beat us 2 or 3-0 or 2 or 3-1, and at the end I think it was evident they didn't clap the team at all. We're all going mad, clapping our lot. They didn't even applaud their team. It was 10 out of 10. What a performance. Hats off to Frank and all the lads. Absolutely unbelievable.
I mean, what an amazing game for anyone to watch first and foremost. But we just fought for it the whole game. We say it all the time, don't you? You're only as good as how you play off the ball. And granted, we didn't have a lot of possession for good spells in that game, but we defended so well. Thomas Frank always invites them. He always tells the players, wait for the last minute before you put that challenge in. It really paid off. We looked so confident. Weren't scared. Take your shots. We're going to get in the way of them. We weren't scared. I had a feeling, when you get that feeling that you're going to score. I can't lie, I haven't been this nervous and shaky at a game in a long time, but we just looked up for it the whole time. We didn't deflate. Sometimes that happens. You held on 0-0 for that long. You kind of have that doubt in your mind. Do we just go for the draw at this point? Then you concede and you think you throw in the towel. But they didn't do that at all. They really, really fought for it.
Well, I think he's just got the tactics right for every big game. He changes the formation, brings in different personnel occasionally. He seems to have an answer for every problem they put in front of him. He's a top manager, he really is. And I thought Tony had a brilliant game. He won most things in the air today, and they were looking for little knock-ons from him. I thought it was a fantastic team performance, but Tony, for me, probably stood out.
Oh, you guys were good. You had the best chance in the first half. Great battle between Tony and Saliba. Probably one of the best battles we get all year. I was here with a friend who's Dutch, and we were talking about the game, and he says they're a rivalry. I was like, it's not really a derby, but there is the game at the start of 21 when the little kick around with the boys. So there's probably a little bit of a needle between the players. Right. Look, it was good. We having been for only the second time this year, we haven't won. So the atmosphere in Tollington was not quite what it could have been. But look, you guys were good. So can't argue with that. If first half you probably missed 2 great chances, probably deserved to be ahead. You guys were good. Only the second team to get any points from here in the league. Yeah. So well done.
Yeah. You should be proud because you had us on the edge from the get-go. I think you had a very good chance in the first opening 5 minutes or something, and I looked at my friend, I was like, do you know what, we might be in trouble. But it just felt like the whole game, it felt quite compact. And it was so hard in the final third for us to make anything happen. Like, Arsenal's been so electrifying, like, from the wings. But for some reason today, it didn't feel like there was any hope or any spaces. So I feel like credit to you guys. And to be honest with you, we were really fortunate. Because like I said, there were 3 good chances. I think Tony hit the bar. And it was just like, I'm walking away frustrated because I didn't meet my expectations. But I feel like I'm very fortunate to walk away with the point.
So there you have it. The Arsenal fans and the Brentford fans talking about that match. Bees fans very happy. Arsenal fans a little bit nervous. You know, the eye on the ball, the eye on the Manchester City game on Wednesday, the eye on the fact that they think that they might fluff it, the eye on the fact that, you know, some of them just, you know, to be fair, a lot of them were actually saying fair play to Brentford for what you've done. But also, like I said to you, some of them are a little bit nervous, the fact that they could be undone by teams like Brentford, and they were probably quite happy that they got a point. That was before they found out about the VAR stuff. But anyway, but listen, you know, that was really interesting views from the fans there. I mean, anything else to add, The Allard?
No, not really. I think it was just, I mean, I had to listen to it, and it's just how good we are.
Yeah, I mean,
Rusty B. I mean, hopefully he's in that clip, but yeah, just like all over it, how good we are. And I saw him after the game as well, and we were just saying we're really, really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, just going back to a little bit of summary of that match. You know what Arsenal were good at. Arsenal were good at creating goal-scoring opportunities from the flanks. Okay, and that was it. Brentford were good at creating a high number of chances relative to their possession, also effective at creating goal-scoring opportunities from set pieces. Arsenal were poor at finishing, the Bees lost possession often. Arsenal, they had a large quantity of possession in their opponent's half. They favoured long shots, dominated possession. They favoured crossing the ball and also through balls, whereas we attacked down the left-hand side and through the middle. Had a high shot frequency when we were in possession, which is good because we talked about that quite a lot as well. We favoured crossing the ball and we favoured long balls as well. You know, 23 attempts to Arsenal's 9, but again, on the XG front, we came out higher on that. So what is that saying to you? You know, who is the most successful side then? Some people say the people that put the ball in the back of the net. Okay, which is true, you know, but at the end of the day, you can only put the ball in the back of the net if you create chances to put them in the back of the net. So I'm glad that we're creating these high quality chances. We need to actually, Ivan Toney just needs to just put them away, and then we would have been laughing. Top performers, according to who scored, Ivan Toney with 8.7, then it's Partey, then Saka, 7.8, 7.6, and then David Raya and Ethan Pinnock as well, 7.4. on that front. So yeah, I mean, overall, it wasn't a fluke. I mean, just looking at that, you know, mapping out the game, it wasn't a fluke. It's almost like, again, if you're talking about two managers, and you know, again, you know, Laney's probably talked to a couple of his Arsenal chums. I've spoken to a couple of my Arsenal chums. Some of them are a bit salty, as they say. You know, they were sort of saying, you know, about us parking the bus, about us falling over, about us not getting out of our half, and you know, just basically going on about the fact that in effect they couldn't break us down. You know, and my argument to them, I'm saying, listen, you know, you've got to change your game plan according to the team. And, you know, at the end of the day, teams used to do this to us all the time in the Championship while we were making 1,000 passes a game and couldn't break them down and weren't scoring goals, you know, and we've realised to change the game up. So that's what we've done against Arsenal. We've worked out where their weaknesses are and we've dealt with it, and they couldn't deal with it. And that's why there is an argument to say, and again, just coming to maybe tactics-wise there, the Allard, where some people are saying, you know, maybe with Arteta, he's a little bit kind of Warburton-esque, not quite like that, with the lack of plan B. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, how do I change things up? He isn't quite sure how to do it. Do you think it's that bad, or do you think it's just that we were too good?
I mean, changing it up, he'd probably need a different centre forward. I mean, he's got an injury. He's got Jesus out injured. So he's got, I guess, probably the only other centre forward at the club, unless there's a youngster there that I don't know. 'Cause changing it up means going more direct, doesn't it, really? And I'm not sure he's got the players to do that.
Would they do that though? Would they? Because there is a certain snobbery about playing that way.
Yeah, I mean, look at Man City this season. You know, they've changed it up. but they're not better than they were last season. So maybe that snobbery is reasonably well found, and Man City have spent a lot of money to change it up. And yeah, but they're not any better. They're not scoring more goals. I think they're letting more goals in. So I kind of get the snobbery of not changing it up at that level. Arsenal are a really good side. I just think at the moment, I mean, I thought they were cruising, certainly before the World Cup, and they just need to get back to doing what they were doing well, which and probably need Jesus fit again at some point.
Yeah,
it'd be interesting to know how the result goes tomorrow night, because they're
against Manchester City.
Yeah, they're obviously going to move on bleating about VAR. So there'll be another controversy tomorrow, probably. I put my money on Man City. Then if they get another 1 point from 3, then it'll be starting to get squeaky bum time. It's just going back to the VAR very briefly, because it does bug me, and I mentioned it in the intro that if it was Brentford and there was a VAR goal that a goal against us that isn't given, the press don't do this. There's no Premier League apology. There's no stripping of officials. There's no sort of there's no absolute interrogation of and like mass media debate about it. It's just it happens. Matt, you brought it up off air. Nottingham Forest away. What happened there?
I mean, I've got loads of stuff on this really. Just if you take us for example, Nottingham Forest away, when it was 6 minutes of injury time, Forest score and equalise to make it 2-2. That goal is for me, when I look back at it, that goal it's offside. I mean, so Ryan Yates, he seems to be standing in an offside position, which they don't draw the line, so they don't really confirm it. And then they spent, as far as I can recall, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes trying to work out if the ball ever touched him on the way into the goal, which it didn't. But he had to literally sort of get out of Ben Mee's way so the ball didn't go, so he didn't hit the ball. Then the ball sort of bounces over him and he's flumbling around as it hits Zanka. And you sort of think, how can he not be interfering with play? But they never draw the line, so they never prove if he's offside, because they've sort of established he didn't kick the ball, and that did get questioned, but only like here and there. But people did question it, but nothing like this for Raw. And arguably, because that was sort of into the 6 minutes of injury time, I mean, we've forgotten about it, to be honest. We definitely would have won that game, because there wasn't another 10 or 15 minutes to go. Who knows what could have happened in those 10 or 15 minutes? So, it happens. When I go to this VAR, my overarching sort of feeling is that the ball was bouncing here, it was bouncing there. There could have been 4 or 5 offsides during that process of play, and it went on long enough, not finding an offside, that how long do people want to stop to go searching for offsides? Because so they could have drawn another line or whatever for Norgard, and I think that probably. The only thing I was saying, because it was offside, I'm not debating it. I get it was offside, but in Lee Mason's defence, I bet he's got a target to get this sorted in 3 minutes or whatever. The Premier League is saying we can't have VAR going on for 8 minutes for a single goal, and he's probably under that sort of time pressure. And in the end, he just thinks, well, I've solved the main problem with Pinnock, which is what we noticed first. I can't quickly see anything else, so we'll crack on. I think VAR's got its flaws, unless people want to sit around for 8 or 9 minutes waiting for these sort of goals to be looked at.
Do you reckon it's got the old countdown clock going in the background?
Yeah, I do because I honestly do, and that's what I was saying in his defence, because everybody moaned it was taking too long, so they're trying to make it quicker. And I bet there's a target for how long you can look at this for. I bet it's so he's under a massive amount of time pressure.
And I've still got a problem with the disallowed Tony goal at Fulham. Some of the angles, the lines that I saw from the pictures afterwards, they were like drawn by a 3-year-old with crayons. They weren't straight. But you just have to move past it and think, well, we are going to get one that goes our way later on in the season. You have to adopt that attitude when it's irretrievable. They're not going to play. I know they're talking about shall we play the game again against Brentford? You know, I mean,
let's
that,
play again
that has been mentioned.
This is the Arsenal fans are talking about that. You mean, yeah?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Of course.
Hopefully, the Premier League aren't.
Sure.
Yeah, that's going to happen.
But that's an opportunity to take 3 points, right?
Yeah, that's true. Actually, yeah, that would be quite funny. Actually, you know, I mean, just coming back to it.
I mean,
again,
it's a joke.
Yeah,
but,
we're not going to long out, because the thing is that we can go into a whole long VAR argument, you know. And the thing is, we've said this and we said this a million times. Now, the thing about it is that, you know, for me, the technology, I personally think is good, but if it's used in the right way. The problem that you've got is like, it's almost like when a kid gets a new toy, so and then you use it to the ultimate effect that is not needed. You know, it's not needed at all. And with VAR, the whole idea of offside in the first place, basically, I mean, offside initially, I think was almost like meant to stop goal hanging, right? So you've got somebody hanging around in the goal down there, and it's like, oh, hold, you know. So you've got this rule to come in to stop them doing that. Okay, so eventually, that's how it, you know, that's how it worked. Now, when you've got a referee who may or may not be able to make a mistake, I mean, the whole idea, and we've talked about this before, is kind of like, what is the point? Looking at what the point is of offside. And as soon as, like I said to you, you get to this whole thing where you're talking, I mean, we're laughing about, you know, the lines weren't drawn straight and the lines weren't drawn this. Yes, in principle, yes, you are going to get people, when an offside rule is played, are going to be on and off, and they're going to be slightly on and off. But the whole idea of it is that it's kind of meant to try and stop kind of, to me, really bad offsides. And if it's obvious, okay, let's call it. But as soon as it starts to get to this ridiculous thing where you've got to draw lines and measure it and take time out and take 8 minutes to measure it, it completely defeats the object. And then if you turn around, as the Allard will say, and says, but if you put computer technology in, then you've got to use that technology. If the technology says it's off, it's off. That is right, but it almost like defeats the object. So what you've done is that you've created things to actually kind of make it even more difficult. And I think we kind of need to just strip it away a little bit and kind of come back to football rather than all this nonsense, because I'm not one of these, oh, I hate VAR people. I'm one of these, I think VAR needs to be used kind of in the way it's meant to be, slightly more leniently, if that makes sense.
And it does make sense, but the problem is you then have to define what is clear and obvious or what is slightly more leniently. Otherwise, what happens is we're on this podcast next season saying, yeah, but that was clear and obvious, but no, that wasn't clear and obvious. But the Arsenal fans thought it was clear and obvious, but I don't think it was clear and obvious. So I honestly think you've got this problem whether you have VAR, you don't have VAR. You go with the clear and obvious. Whatever you do, you're still going to be round about it because at some point you have to say this is the cut-off.
Okay, tell you what I'd do. Right?
Yeah, go on.
I'd say, to me, the ref is the ultimate. Right, and I'll say this as well. My daughter's just done a referee course. She's refereed her first 3 matches, and for me, you're sitting down there as a father thinking, you want to make sure that everybody on that pitch particularly respects that person there, because, you know, she's related to me. So you feel more, and you're watching the ref, what they do even more. So for me, you know, the whole idea of people abusing refs and everything like that is kind of completely out the window. Now, for me, the ref should be controlling that game. Now, I believe that they should be using the technology to help them, but I think that it's up to their decision. Now, if their decision, and if all of a sudden, if, say, for example, if the referee makes a decision and that referee is maybe sort of kind of 10% out or something like that, or, you know, 3 inches out or something like that, and they measure that, and if he makes a decision and he's wrong, I think they should just shut up and leave him to get on with it, right? That's seriously, I just think that's it. Oh, sorry, you know, but they should pull him up if he's gone over a certain boundary. Do you understand what I'm saying? Which will leave the referee to actually become the controller.
Yeah, I do. But the problem is that you have to define the boundaries, and then you'll be rowing about whether it was past the boundary or not. So for me, you just move the argument to something else, because you can't define the boundaries as, was he 30% wrong? Because what's 30? Do you know what I mean? I know you were just using it, and you didn't mean that exactly, but unless you unfortunately, most of this is subjective. A lot of this is subjective, and whether you get VAR or not, and people are going to have different opinions as to whether it was right or wrong, whether that's Alan Shearer or Match of the Day or us three talking on a podcast, or the Arsenal fans on AFTV. So you probably ain't going to take this out. And the whole idea of VAR was to take all of this discussion out. So maybe you just go back to not having VAR.
all controversial. Anyway, listen, we're going to move on because tell you what we're going to do, because like I said to you, Arsenal playing Man City, which is a big title decider as well. But there's also been a few other things that have been going on in the league, which we thought was quite interesting. I'm going to go off and get another beer, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about the Premier League. So Premier League started to get a bit interesting, actually. I mean, it's more interesting when you're relaxed, when you know you're not going to get relegated, it has to be said. But I'll tell you what the interesting things about it is that, as opposed to last season, where we kind of, you had your Norwiches and you had your kind of, even like your Burnleys, and you had your teams that you knew were they were looking pretty stinky from the off. This season there's been a bit of a merry-go-round, and there's been all sorts of stuff happening. Quite interestingly, Southampton, who were kind of sort of mid-table for a bit, but they just sort of kind of fell off a cliff, and they've ended up at the bottom of the league, and they've got our old mate Rasmus there, and Rasmus has been getting a bit of grief from the Southampton fans, which we didn't mention actually when we played Southampton a couple of weeks ago. Actually, we kind of sort of kept quiet on that one, but they're not particularly happy with what Rasmus is doing down at Southampton, and in particular, they weren't happy with their manager Nathan Jones that they picked. And I'll tell you something, he after about 2 weeks, he was on a hiding to nothing down at Southampton. So they've just sacked him. Obviously Everton have sacked Frank Lampard as well. Then you've got Leeds United with Jesse Marsh, or as they call him, Yank Lampard as well, which is a bit of a joke that has been flying around about him as well. He's just been sacked at Leeds United, but then afterwards now he looks like he's going to go down to Southampton. So what's the chances of him actually saving Southampton and them actually missing out on relegation, and then Leeds United getting relegated? So there's all sorts of stuff that's going down in the Premier League at the moment now, which has made it interesting, isn't it, Allard? Yeah,
it's I think when we came out to the Premier League, a lot of people sort of warned us that you get bored of it quite quickly because you're losing all the time. Luckily, we had the luxury of not being in that position. I'm loving it. I think. I mean, maybe because I'd never really followed the Premier League, when we weren't in it. I think this season is turning into one of the classic sort of, Premier League seasons. We don't know who's going to win the league, or maybe it is a 2-horse race. It could end up. Maybe someone else breaks into it, and who's going down is just brilliant, isn't it? I mean, it's brilliant that we're not involved in it, for sure. It'd be a bloody nightmare if we were sitting on 22 points at the moment. I can tell you that much. But I think it's great this season. There's a lot of personalities around as well. I mean, Nathan Jones was comically entertaining, wasn't he?
He's a character,
Southampton. I mean, he's a character. And the next most comically entertaining manager is about to take over at Southampton by the sound of things. So I'm loving that bit of merry-go-round, and it would be funny, I guess, if Southampton did pull out of it and drop Leeds in it. I don't think it's going to happen.
Nathan Jones is like the Liz Truss of football management, isn't he?
Yeah,
he's kind of been and gone, and will you ever remember he was there? And especially his self-proclaimed best manager in Europe or whatever it was. he's clearly cut out for Leeds, isn't he? I mean, who are the perennial champions of Europe? It's Leeds. Yeah. So they are on the same wavelength. He is so suited to go there. I just hopefully he will, and he'll take him down.
And it does make you wonder a bit about Rasmus, doesn't it? Because he literally went to Southampton and did exactly what I think we all thought he would do, which was basically not a lot, because he's not that sort of manager. He's a manager that sort of builds a team like he's done at Luton on certainly on one occasion. He probably came back to half of it the next time around, and sort of coaxes them into his sort of mould. And just to throw him into Southampton, just as he was thrown in at Stoke, and expect miracles, it just seemed it was a bizarre appointment, unless they literally were preparing for the Championship. And the fact they sacked him would suggest they weren't preparing for the Championship. They did have this idea he was going to keep him up. I just thought it was a very odd appointment.
Well,
that was their view.
I think either that, the Allard, or basically the absolute abuse and the barrage of abuse that they got. Maybe they thought, actually, maybe they just did the backtrack. I mean, Rasmus did a fans forum recently, and he sat in front of the fans forum and he talked to them about certain things, and he talked about how he'd made the mistake at Brentford with Dijkhuizen, and they weren't afraid to kind of to sack him in the end. And if they felt it was the right thing to do, they would do. But in the end, like I said to you, I suppose at the end of the day, going 1-0 up against Wolves, and then losing 2-1, and Wolves had 10 men, they probably thought we're just going to get absolute dog's abuse here, and it's just not worth our hassle, so they just probably thought they'll get rid of it. And also Leeds had also sacked Marsh, and they probably saw it as a good opportunity to pick him up on the cheap, because apparently he was on the cheap at Brentford, not Brentford, at Leeds as well. So they probably thought we could pick him up on the cheap, and he's already got a bit of a payoff as well. So we could probably do a bit of a deal with him. So like I said to you, maybe it was maybe the timing was right. But I'm just wondering as well, because we know about Nathan Jones quite a bit more from the Championship, because he was in there with Luton, which he did really well. Stoke, he didn't do so well, and that's when he did those things with the eyes. Sometimes I say it's quite Kevin Keegan-esque, when he was just kind of like him against the world, kind of battling against them. And then he's gone to Southampton, where he's kind of done a little bit of that himself. Now, do you think that part of the reason why he may have got sacked was because of that and the way that he's behaved, as opposed to what he's been doing on the pitch? They probably thought, oh no, this guy's like, if he probably had a little bit, kind of kept his head down a little bit and just kind of had a little bit more humility, maybe they might have just carried on with him. But they probably felt we can't defend him. We're in all sorts of trouble here.
But he's not acting. He wasn't acting out of character, was he? He's got a history of that sort of stuff. So I don't know. I mean, it was an odd appointment, because it went. This happens all the time in football. Is that teams take on managers and it goes exactly the way you expect it to do, and you wonder why nobody at the club thought it might go that way. I mean, it was the oddest.
Yeah, it really was. And as Matt said, it's not as if he hadn't got history. Had he really earned the right to be managing a Premiership football club? You could argue he had, but I mean, only if he probably took a team up. And I think it's lovely to be sitting. Not the word smug is not something I'd use, but we can sit and watch these kind of basket cases of clubs going on around us, and really from a position of stable kind of achievement, where we're being talked about European tours, and we're almost certainly going to be possibly in the top 10. It could be a lot better than that. So we're 5 or 6 points out of the Champions League places. It's all possible. It's ours to lose, and at least, as Matt said earlier, we're not looking over our shoulders this season. And although we did a little bit last year, we're even in a far more confident position than even we were last year.
It's interesting. Okay, as you know, I'm chumtastic. I've got chums all over the gaff, and my Leeds chums, they were all they were doing. They were giving it to me in their head about Jesse Marsh. We got to get rid of him. He's an idiot. He's useless. He's this. He's that. They were absolutely gunning him to pieces. They were, my Leeds fans. So eventually, when he went, they go, "Thank God he's gone." Same time, you've got my Southampton fans who are gunning Nathan Jones down, gunning him. So now, Jesse Marsh is gone. Then ironically, Jesse Marsh now looks like he's going to go to Southampton. And I sort of said to my Leeds mate, I said to him, what's going to happen? He goes, he knows Jesse Marsh is going to go to Southampton. He's going to save them, and Leeds are going to get relegated, and he's absolutely shitting himself now.
It's Saturday week. It's Saturday week, isn't it? I believe it's Saturday week.
They're playing each other. Yeah. They're playing each other. And,
up Ellen Road.
And Southampton have got they've got Chelsea before that as well, who are not on the greatest of runs as well. So you just never know. I just think that would be just one of the best stories ever if that were to happen. So we shall see. But again, looking at 5:38 as we do, they've still got Southampton rock bottom, finishing at the bottom of the league with 30 points at the end of the season, and they got Bournemouth second bottom with 32 points. Everton third bottom. We haven't talked about Everton, a bit of a basket case club, as we say, on 33 points. Then they got Nottingham Forest has actually dropped away a little bit, because Nottingham Forest were up there before, but they're looking at Nottingham Forest dropping away a little bit, about on 38. So there's still a big gap between Everton and Nottingham Forest, they believe. Okay, then Leeds United on 38 points as well. Wolverhampton on 41, West Ham on 41. So they're out of it, and Crystal Palace on 43. They think they're out of it, and Leicester as well. We're not even in the picture. Actually, we're on 1% chance of promotion of relegation, whereas Leeds United are on 24% chance of relegation. Everton are on 56% chance chance of relegation, and Southampton 71%. So that's where it's kind of at. Gives you a flavour of where it is at the moment now. So, but then, all it needs is, Southampton to beat Leeds United, and that just turns everything on its head and makes it quite interesting. Everton, but coming back to Everton, the Allard, you had some thoughts on the Everton, because it's really strange what's going on down there, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess they've gone for the manager that you would expect to get them out in a scrap, and maybe that was their only option that was left, really. I thought it was intriguing that Mopé didn't play for him on last night, on Monday night. And he's obviously, he's got his way of playing, and it would appear that he doesn't trust Mopé in it, which is bizarre, as it was their sort of summer centre-forward signing. I still think Everton will be in trouble. I just don't think he's got the players there.
They were really poor, weren't they, Matt?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure. I know they've. Yeah, I just don't think the play. I mean, who are the players that are going to drag them out of it? I'm not sure. I still think they're probably going to finish below Leeds, and that might be enough to put them down, you would think.
Yeah. Liverpool didn't realise what the game plan was actually the other day, did they? Not at all. Or maybe Everton didn't know what the game plan was the other day, but they didn't really do themselves any favours. But anyway, listen, just a little talk about what's happening down at the bottom.
Bill, how's the old West London League getting on?
Well, the fact is that the West London League, as we know, Brentford are still at the top of the league.
No.
I'm not sure we are.
Sure.
No. Well, in our minds, we're still top.
We've got a game in hand.
Yeah. Okay. We'll give that to the F word. Okay. So they
beat Forest, didn't they? They beat Forest.
They're temporarily at the top. You know what I'm saying? And then we are second. We are Chelsea are third, and then I'm not quite sure. QPR. So they're where are they in the Premier League at the moment? I'm still looking, actually. It's not on 538, so maybe they've made a mistake. Hold on, I'll just check the league. But I can't find them, actually, Laney.
I think I might have made the blunder again.
What was that?
I think I might be looking at the
wrong table?
Data from several seasons ago, from 30 years ago.
Okay, right. Yeah. Don't do it again, Laney. You seem to do this every week. Every week.
Frank McClintock's still not playing. He's not playing for him now, is he?
He doesn't play for them, actually. He doesn't manage us either.
Phil Parks? No,
he doesn't play goal for them, no.
Jerry Francis?
Dan Bowles? No.
Oh, God, no, okay. All right, no. Sorry. Apologies. So where are they then? Where the hell are they then?
I'll tell you something. What we'll do is that we're going to go over to JB. He's going to give us some facts and some funk, and that should give us enough time for us to scroll down far enough to try and see where QPR.
They're not on that page either.
No, they're not. Okay, this is JB with his facts.
Not on that one either.
And his funk.
What the hell are they?
Are you ready for this? I told you it was coming. Who? JB, and he's ready to stock it to you one time. Get it.
Hello, Jonathan Burchill back again. We know Arsenal was our 10th Premier League game unbeaten, but it was also the 7th league game in succession that we hadn't let a goal in the first half. In the top tier, that's second only to the 8 back in our original second season in Division 1 in 1936. 16 is the club record, set in 1981. We've only never played Arsenal in the top tier. The original 5 seasons in the 30s and 40s, plus the 2 Premier League seasons. We did the double over them in 1937-38, but they've never achieved that over us in the 7 seasons. Talking of doubles, last season 4 teams did that to us. Manchester City, Manchester United, Brighton and Leicester. As we've taken points off all of them this season, none will repeat that. With Arsenal failing to take all 3 points, the maximum number of doubles over us this season is 3. Newcastle, Fulham and Villa. With all 3 still to play at home. For us, we can still achieve 5. Last season it was just 3, over Watford, West Ham and Everton. Next up is Crystal Palace, who we've drawn with in all our 3 Premier League meetings. Although we've not met them much in recent years, we're looking for our first league win over them since 1963.
So there's JP with his facts and funk. He's Crystal Palace facts and funk. He completely ignored the QPR thing because he had absolutely no interest whatsoever in the QPR thing. All he wanted to talk about is the fact that, to be quite honest with you, we haven't beaten Palace since before we were all born in the league, which is quite a long time ago. 1963, I think it was. The Beatles were doing things then. There were other people that were doing things then. I don't even know who, because I can't really say because I wasn't born.
Other people doing things then.
That's how vague it gets on this podcast. When you haven't got facts, you just kind of just make it up, But 1963, I can't comment on 1963 because I was not born at that time. But all I know is that was the last time that we beat Crystal Palace in the league. Laney. So Palace are coming to the mighty bees. How are we going to do? I mean, Crystal Palace. Oh, okay, I've got chums. I keep talking about chums. I've got chums here, there, and everywhere. I've got Tim Blacksmith over in America, who's flown over this week actually because he came over for the Brits. He looks after Sam Smith as well as other people as well, and he sponsors my Barnet Panthers team as well. Thank you very much, Tim, for that. And he's a Palace fan, so he may be coming to the match on Saturday if he decides to hang around instead of flying back to LA. So you've got him, you've got Neil, who's going to be coming down as well. You've got Toby, the Kinder, the Dulwich Hamlet crew, who's not going because he feels that the last 3 games were so terrible, he said, that he feels this is going to be terrible as well. So the loyalty bonus points are not there, so he's not even going to go to the game. But I think more to the point is I think that the Palace fans out there, from what I can gather, are a little bit nervous about the way that they're playing at the moment now. And I had 1 or 2 of them even said to me that they felt that they are in relegation problems, which I think is absolutely not the case at all because they've got too many points and they're too far up the table, but they're not impressed by the way that they're playing football, which is interesting. And we're going to hear from Dee in a minute from Back of the Nest podcast because they were really impressed by what Vieira had brought to Palace and the type of football that they're playing. So it'll be interesting to hear how that has changed or not changed over the last 6 months. But Palace, their strength is stealing the ball from the opposition, and that's their one strength, according to WhoScored.com. The weakness is keeping possession of the ball, finishing scoring chances, avoiding fouling in dangerous areas, defending against skillful players, aerial duels, defending set pieces, and they're very weak defending against attacks down the wings. Now, the Allard, how are you feeling about that?
Palace are in the bottom 5 teams in the league at the moment, aren't they, in terms of the last 5 games? I think 3 points from 5 games. Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? I mean, it's a full turnaround to when we because when we played them last time, this was sort of the Vieira revolution, and suddenly we're playing them and yeah, they seem to be
off with his head.
I tell you what, yes, are they off with his head? I mean, I don't know. In terms of Vieira, are they questioning that, or
we'll find out from Dee in a minute.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. Be interesting to hear. I mean, you've got to put us as massive favourites, haven't you, on Saturday to finally, especially with the history. About time we beat them. I don't know what's going on at Palace. I haven't really watched them in recent times, but they seem to me like a good sort of mid-table team, and I suppose they're still 12th. But there's no denying that at the moment, I think they're right down with Southampton, Bournemouth, Everton, and Leeds as 3 points from or less from the last 5 games. So they're definitely struggling, and they're probably glad of 24 points and not sitting there on 21.
Yeah, I mean, for me, and again, I've got to check the stats. And what we'll do is when Dee goes off in a little chat, we'll go and check the stats. We'll come back in a minute. But from what I can remember, Palace, again, we're a statty side. We're statty fans. We live and breathe this, so we do kind of understand that. We bring it into kind of what we talk about. Palace they don't necessarily create the high opportunity chances that we talk about, which we think is important. It's not the be all and the end all, but it's important to try and get you where you're going to be going. For us, we create the high opportunity chances, then we don't put them in the back of the net. But what Palace are good at doing is that they're good at creating these chances. The goal that they scored against us, I think it was at the beginning of the season again. Wicked goal, bang, outside the top of the area in the top corner. They score these goals. They've got these players who are really skillful, who can pull one out the bag. But as you know, the problem is that if you can't be doing that week in and week out because you can't rely on those goals week in and week out. And I don't think that they're creating the chances, the bigger opportunity chances. And that's over the space of a season. You might score them goals one goal here, 2 goals in the game, and it's really fantastic. And it's the rush of blood to the head that fans love. But, you know, after a while, you get frustrated when your player's hitting the ball from 30 yards and it goes over the stand, or it goes left, or it goes right. And I think maybe that's part of the problem what Palace have had. They're not actually really sort of creating them opportunities, and it's starting to get them frustrated. You know, maybe they got the possession, maybe they're playing great football, but maybe they're just not creating the chances. But like I said to you, we're going to hear from D right now from Back of the Nest podcast, and he's going to let us know about what the problems are, if there are any problems, going down at Palace at the moment.
What's going on, people? It's Steve from Back of the Nest, giving my thoughts ahead of the game, giving you all the Palace insight. Before I start, thank you for having me back on the channel. As a Palace fan, it's been frustrating this season to talk about the team at certain stages of the game. But look, it is what it is. We're still here. We're trying to go to the end of the season, and we'll see what happens. But look, let's talk about our summary of our season so far. As I just mentioned at the start of the pod, it's been mediocre at best, and the reason for that is because we haven't strengthened the squad enough in the summer. I mean, we brought in 2 quality players in the Correa of Riches, but we also got rid of a lot of players that we didn't replace, and we went into the season basically with a weaker squad, and we continued that. In January we brought in 2 players, but still that's not enough in terms of for us to compete at the levels that we did last season. So the expectation this season has actually come down. Like, the expectations are not as high as it was in the previous season. We thought we would build on, but we didn't really have the opportunity because of not spending enough money, basically. So yeah, it's been a bit frustrating, but there hasn't been any difference post World Cup, pre-World Cup. It's pretty much been the same old Palace. I guess in the style of play, yes, there has been difference. We have gone a bit more defensive, trying to get the best out of the players, because I think Vieira realised that playing that high-pressing football is not going to work. So we try to be a bit more like defensive in our approach to games, and try to pick up more points, try to be more defensively solid, which has worked post-World Cup. We picked up some good results against some quality teams. So yeah, if you look at our actual style of football, yes, it has changed, but in terms of actual results and whether our season is going to change, it's been pretty much the same throughout the season. But talking about the quality of the division and rivals this season, I think it's been absolutely brilliant season. We're seeing, even at the top of the league, Arsenal competing at the highest level. You're seeing teams like Liverpool and Chelsea drop off, which of course Chelsea, for you guys, you must be enjoying that. And then you're seeing teams pick up results, and it's very tight. Even when we talk about relegation, I don't think there's probably about 2 teams that people might favour, but still don't know the third team, and you still don't know who's going to finish in a top 6 or top 7, top 8. You guys are doing very well. So in terms of actual rankings, to the quality of the division and the rivals this season, I'll have to give it probably a 8 out of 10. Unexpected drops from big teams, and also increase from the likes of Brentford and Fulham and other teams. So yeah, it's been an exciting season for the neutral. But in terms of moving on to the next question about Vieira, am I happy with him? Yes, I am. And there's a lot of Palace fans that are frustrated, and I have this topic literally every single time I do a show on Back of the Nest. But the reason why they are frustrated is because we're not playing the same style of football as we were last season. And we're not, well, funny enough, I think we picked up more points this season than last season. But in terms of the performances, it hasn't really matched last season. So there are people a bit angry with that. But I think you have to be realistic. We haven't strengthened the squad. We've regressed, and people are having unexpected expectations, and they have to realize that sometimes as Palace fans we get carried away. We are Palace. We don't have the resources of spending 80 to 70 million pound every window. Yes, we have probably a bit more money than we have spent this season so far, and I don't think many Palace fans will disagree, but there's only so much Vieira can do. And Vieira, the good thing about it is, even during these hard times when he hasn't been backed as enough, the positive has been that he has adapted his style of play. So he has been able to, change it up, as I mentioned just previously, with going from his actual philosophy and changing up to adapt to the players that he's got. So yeah, I think he brings a lot. I think he brings in the quality of players as well. Lots of players want to play under a Premier League legend, Patrick Vieira, and I feel like, you know, he's got a big summer. We've got a big summer as a football club to push on next season, because it must be very frustrating for him as well. But yeah, I'm not disappointed. I'm realistic with the expectations this season. In terms of, am I comfortable with Palace's squad this season? I think I'm comfortable in terms of staying up. I feel like we've got enough quality to actually stay up in the league. But in terms of whether we can push on to the top 10 or top 8 or even the likes of top 7, even though that's very unrealistic at this stage, I don't think we've got that. I think we'll stay up. I think there might be points of the season where we might go down to 15th and to 10th, but you know, I think we'll be stuck in between 12th to 15th pretty much. But yeah, I look, in terms of the actual squad in itself, we do need a new right back, we do need a new forward. I mean, we started Jeffrey Schlupp and Jordan Ayew in our attack against Brighton, which pretty much sums it up, where our quality lacks. So we have some key areas like the right back, as I mentioned, maybe another left winger to back up Zaha when he's injured. Strikers, they've been out of form recently. You know, their right back it's been a problem all season in terms of actual quality. So yeah, we do need to strengthen, but I think we do have a solid enough squad to stay up. I think that's our expectations now, just to stay up and just be around 12th to 15th. But in terms of who would we be looking out for in Palace for you guys, it's it's a bit difficult. It depends on who's back from injury. Right now, as it stands, I think Zaha should be back. Joachim Andersen hopefully should be back as well, but it's a bit early to tell. So, but in terms of the actual players that I've played, Cheikh Doucouré, I'm a huge fan of his, and I think he's very underrated in the Premier League. He's a holding midfielder that's very comfortable on the ball. He's a typical modern number 6 who can do the defensive duty as well as the attacking duty. So he's been on form, and you know, apart from that, Mark Gahey, Vicente Guaita, there hasn't been that many standout players recently, which pretty much sums up why we are where we are in the league. But yeah, look, at least if he's on his game, he can be very good as well. But sometimes his decision making lacks. But yeah, you most likely be them 3 players. If Zaha and Joachim Andersen don't play, if they play, then of course you have to look out for them as well. In terms of the best game of the season so far, there hasn't been that many great games this season. We have managed to pick up results, but off my head, the best game of the season so far, I feel like this will be recency bias, but the fact that we managed to get a point against Brighton based on that VAR decision, and considering that they are our big rivals and they got frustrated that they couldn't beat us, I think I was very happy with that. But West Ham away, that was a solid performance as well, because we haven't won that many games away from home. So that was our best game, and the worst game of the season so far, probably Nottingham Forest away from home, where we literally had 0 shots on target, and that was right before the World Cup break. It gave a very sour taste to all the fans based on that performance. It was just very poor by our standards. Zaha was playing and all these other players were playing, but they weren't playing to the levels that they should be. So yeah, I feel like those are the 2 games that probably stand out to me so far, but there hasn't been really any standout performances so far this season. And no, I'm not really worried about relegation. Talking about the next question, look, as I mentioned before, we'll bounce off from 15th to 12th or maybe 16th, depending on who we're playing, but we do pick up results here and there. Our problem is that we can't be consistent enough, and that's basically on the players that we have. But then again, we do pick up points, so I'm not worried about relegation, even though some Palace fans are. But yeah, look, talking about our game in particular, there has been a lot of draws, hasn't there? It's been about 3 draws in our last 3 games since you guys got promoted. 2 0-0s, 1 all as well. I remember that game earlier on this season. But you know how I've viewed them games is basically 2 decent side teams, just, and also managers are very important, just balancing each other out. I feel like Brentford got a solid squad, Palace got a solid squad. We both got strengths in other areas that we might not have in our own teams. For example, you have Tony, which of course better forward than all our forwards, but then we might have certain players in different positions maybe that could also step up. So I feel like it's been a fairly balanced games between us. It hasn't, of course, been the most exciting of games because of the tactics just balancing each other out. But yeah, the game earlier on this season, it was pretty much 1-0 Palace. It was a tight occasion, and then I remember Vieira changed it up in the 75th minute, and yeah, it pretty much changed the whole game. It changed the whole game. It was a panic move by him. He went very defensive, and then you guys managed to score a goal like that. But even in that game, we didn't have much. It was just a Zaha masterclass goal that pretty much separated both our teams. So I think it'll be a very tight game on this weekend as well. But talking about some of your players that I'm worried about, I feel like you got very good players. And these players are very good because of the manager, Thomas Frank. I'm a true believer in that. The manager can make players better and worse. He's getting the best out of these players. Of course, Tony, that's the biggest worry because of the goals that he can score, and I think that's a massive difference between both our teams. You got a very good goal scorer, and we are lacking that. But Tony and Bremo, who's been very good so far this season, causing problems to defenses all season long. You got Rico Henry, and you got solid defense. So there's a few players that, as I mentioned there, that I'm worried about, and I feel like overall your squad is very balanced from a neutral perspective anyways. You've got solid attackers, you've got solid midfielders and defenders as well. So yeah, I feel like it'll be exciting to see, well, maybe not for us, but exciting to see certain matchups, especially the likes of Mbomo maybe against Nathaniel Klein. That might be interesting because Nathaniel Klein had a very good game against Matoma. But yeah, we'll see. But look, in terms of how I see the game going, I feel like it could be another draw, but saying that, I could see a 1-0 to either Brentford or Palace as well. Right now my heart is saying 1-0 Palace, but my head is saying 1-1. I can see it being a very tightly contested game. I hope that Wilf Zaha is back and Joachim Andersen's back, because that will be a massive plus for our team. And if they are back, I feel like you got strengths in areas, we've got strengths and weaknesses as well. So I feel like it'll be another balanced game, but I'm expecting another draw. I'll take a draw because I respect Brentford for what they've done so far this season. They've been a very good side, and that's down to the players, of course, the manager and the whole infrastructure at the club that many teams are looking at. So look, I respect Brentford for what it is, so I'll happily take a draw. But of course, for you guys, you're looking at a team that's been struggling. I assume that you want to go and get the win, so we'll see what happens. But I'm going for 1-1, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a 1-0 Palace as well, because we do need a result, and on our day I feel like we could still get a result against you guys despite how good you are. And that's not me being disrespectful to Brentford, because I know how good you lot have been so far this season. But look, that's my thoughts ahead of the game. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed my perspective on the game. If you have done, make sure to check out Back of the Nest, the Crystal Palace podcast YouTube fan channel. We've had Lewis also from Besotted Brentford, who's come on to give his perspective. So if you guys want to check that out, head over to our YouTube channel. But thank you for having me on, and all the best for the rest of the season apart from Saturday.
So there was D from Back of the Nest podcast, and like I said to you, looking forward to the game. Bit nervous, but look, enough of the as we know enough about this decision. This season, because we've been around here for long enough. We've been here for a season and a half. We kind of know, as we talked about earlier, there are teams that are kind of doomed, and even teams, if they have a bad one. I mean, Palace are going to have a really properly stinky run, I think, to be any real problems this season. And like I said to you, they've got enough decent players in their side, haven't they? I mean, we talked about what Eze, Elise, there's got some really good players that they've signed that we would have loved to have in our side, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, you can go through the side, they just got all these sort of attacking players, and Sahar obviously as well, who seems to score. Does he score wonder goals against us? It feels like he does, but maybe just scores a lot of those goals. So they seem like a lot of attacking threat, but they may be a bit like Leicester though, in terms of
and Leicester,
in terms of do they create like good opportunities, or do they score good goals? And maybe it is that they score good goals, which is the point you were making just a minute ago. and maybe that's what Palace are. Maybe the goals aren't going in, and a bit like suddenly Leicester scored 4, didn't they, at the weekend? Maybe Palace have got that game in them.
Yeah, perhaps they have, but we played them 3 times. They've been 3 pretty dull games. There's something about them though, as you say, and our run, it has to come to an end at some stage. It doesn't have to, but my fear is it could be against them on Saturday. But somehow, we're not going to be complacent going into this. We're going to be set up to take them properly on. And I just can't believe that we didn't beat them last year. I thought that was one of those games where although it was a game that stopped the rot, wasn't it? But it was I think hopefully we'll be bouncing around at 5 o'clock again.
Yeah, just having a look at their match. They played Brighton. Obviously, it's their big game. It's the last game that they played as well. At the end of the day, if you look at it, I never saw this on Match of the Day. I haven't seen the match at all, so I don't know what's happened. But just looking at this map, I'm not being funny. Brighton had one. Palace had one big opportunity, which is their goal, which is Tompkins on 69 minutes, 53%. So basically 1 and 2 of those goes in the back of the net. It literally was on the line. So that was a given. You know what I'm saying? But other than that, tiny little dots, like, 4 or 5 little chances, which were probably like, 5%ers, 3%ers, in the area, just a few of there. So nothing. Whereas, I'm not being funny, Brighton, literally, I'm not being funny, in the area, 41%, 45, 39%, 45%, 50, 55% McAllister, 20 massive blue dots inside the area. The score was 1-1 in the end. According to this, I'm not being funny, it looks like it should have been about 5-1 or 5-1 at least, maybe 6-1 if they got one of the smaller chances, which they also did have, which they didn't put in the back of the net. So Brighton, the usual thing where they basically create lots and lots and lots of good opportunities, high quality opportunities, which just don't put them in the back of the net. It looks like they absolutely battered Palace and they got a 1-1 draw out of it.
The chart I'm looking at, Brighton's XG was 2.74.
Yeah. That's right.
To get a 1, that's normally like 4 or 5 goals, as you say.
2.74 to 0.81. And just looking at the two teams as well, if you want to match them up as well, over the season, Palace scored 20 goals for, they've let in 30 goals, so they've got a -10 goal difference. Their XG4 is 23.83 over the season, so that kind of accumulates all the matches, all the high quality chances that they've created. 23.83 over the season. The XG against is the chances against them is 38.18. Okay, compare that to Brentford. Our XG4 is 37.82, so it's 23.83 to 37.82, and the XG against for us is 31.12, and that compares to theirs 38.18. So basically, they're letting in more, or letting in chances to let in more goals, and also creating less decent opportunities in front of goal. So I think it kind of sums up what we're talking about, this whole idea about Palace and creating less good quality chances. But then saying that, we mustn't rest on our laurels, because we've seen what happens in the 2 games that we played then before this, other than the 0-0 last year. They scored wicked goals because they can do that with their players, can't they?
Yeah, exactly. And I guess that's the main thing, that at some point you'd imagine they'll bang in 3 goals in a game. Hopefully it's not Saturday.
It's another really good test, isn't it, for us? It's a really good barometer to see how far we progress, because they're one of the few teams that we've not beaten in the top flight. So it may not feel like a scalp, but it probably is one.
And it's a massive opportunity to really push ourselves into that top sort of 7.
That's right, top 7. That's right. You're really clutching there, the Allard. Top 7, top 6. Top 6.
It's massive.
How far are we off? How far are we off the Champions League?
6 or 7 points, isn't it? It's not. It might even be 5. It's hardly. It's a handful. It's a handful of points.
Yeah. So listen. They got you got the Eze, they got the Zaha as well. Who's Zaha? He's never happy when he plays us. I don't know if he's just never happy. Full stop. Like I said, Elise, who we've got a lot of respect for as well. They've got some good players. But we've got good players in Ben Mee. We've got the Pinnock, who's going to try and keep things up tight, and then obviously up front we're doing very well. Score prediction, Laney.
It's 7 points. Score prediction, I'm going to go for a 2-1 Brentford win.
Okay. The Allards?
3-2 Brentford.
Ooh. Oh, so it's goals.
Well, there hasn't been any goal. There's not many goals when we play them. It doesn't normally end up 1-1.
Yeah. Will there be goals at half time? Any chance?
Goals at half time, yeah.
Full time as well?
There'll be goals at full time.
Excellent. I'm going to go for a 2-0 mighty Brentford win, as they say. But anyway, listen, this is the Besotted Pride of West London podcast. Thanks for listening.
Hold on, Bill. Hold on, Bill.
Second.
Who got last week's score prediction right?
See, I was just trying to gloss past that one, like I was saying. Yeah, okay, lady, you did very well. You got the score prediction of the 1-1 at Arsenal. You got that correct, actually.
Cheers.
Yeah, that's right, mate. You can just tip your hat to you, the Laney here. So we'll be listening out for the next week's one to see who, if you're going to be on a double bubble for that one. Anyway, but as we say, this is the Besotted Pride of West London podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and all good podcast channels and write us a review, and also buy us a beer, besotted.com/beer. What else do you need to do? Because Besotted Global is our little social media platform thing that we are chilling out on as well. But other than that, nothing else really to say. Saturday, looking forward to Palace coming down. Fingers crossed we can get our first victory against them since I think it's 1963, before we were all born, or maybe you were born, or I'm not sure. There's some characters that are born around that time. But we'll first get our first victory, fingers crossed, against them. But other than that, like I said, I'm Billy Grant. I've got the lady in the house.
Good afternoon.
You got the Allard in the place.
Good afternoon. Go on, you bees.
And like I said to you, I'm looking forward to Saturday. As we say, come on, you bees.
What is it you actually say in those bits, Bill?
I just make it up,
Okay.
I'm like an MC, just off the top of my head. It's like freestyle.
Like the rebel MC.
Yeah, that's right.
Ding, ding,
You
ding,
bees.
ding, 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 ding,
Let's get them
ding,
Eagles.
ding, 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 ding.